Hey guys, Mr. TNA here today, coming to you with the second video of the video series that I'll be doing. Just talking about a couple of my ideas concerning TNA and some of the things that I think that they could do and I think would really work. Today's video is about a potential World X Cup 2012. If you can remember, the World X Cup has happened 3 times in TNA. 2004 was the first year, 2006, 2008, and then it was discontinued in 2010 because I think of reasons being budgets, that TNA had spent a lot of money in bringing in guys like Mr. Anderson, Rob Van Dam, Jeff Hardy, Hulk Hogan, Eric Bischoff. And also because Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff, I think, were playing around with a couple of different ideas that they had, and not only was the World X Cup a victim in 2010 of Hogan and Bischoff, so was the King of the Mountain match. So I think that's why they didn't have it in 2010. If they continued with the pattern of having the World X Cup every other year, this year could mark the return of the World X Cup. And after thinking about it, I thought of some things that they could do in the World X Cup, a couple of changes that could possibly make it better than before. First thing I would do is not have it go from the night after Slammiversary to the July pay-per-view like they did in 2008, because the July pay-per-view now is Destination X. So, because having World X Cup running, the finals running into Destination X, it kind of limits you on the people you can use in the teams. So, like, if you wanted a 4-man Ultimate X match for number 1 contendership, or maybe the X Division title, and then if you wanted it as a number 1 contenders match, and then you had the separately an X Division title match, you're not really going to have the best from your company representing you in a team, which in other years we've seen they have been represented well. So I would have it the night after Destination X, so you didn't put a shackle around your ankles on what matches you could book. Also, I would have it maybe you could book talents who are going to be involved in the World X Cup, who are going to be there for the tapings the night after on the Monday, to appear on the pay-per-view on the Sunday as maybe possibly in a World X Cup preview match, or maybe even getting the champion, junior heavyweight champion from New Japan, or the junior heavyweight champion from another Japanese company, depending on what company would fill that slot, and the AAA Cruiserweight title, have them defended on the pay-per-view, just add a couple more championship matches, and also make Destination X feel a bit more special, because it's, the one time you're going to see 3 different, or maybe even 2 or 3 or maybe even 4, depending on if Rinka King had a light heavyweight or junior heavyweight championship by July, maybe 2 or 3 or 4 different X Division weight limit championship matches in one night on one show, which would just add a bit of flair to the pay-per-view, and you could advertise it as something different. So the teams, I would keep the system of the 4 teams the same. I would change some of the teams. For example, instead of having a Team International like they did in 2008 and a Team Canada in 2006 and 2004, I would have a Team Rinka King, which is TNA's Indian promotion, and they've got some junior heavyweights, light heavyweights, cruiserweights, X Division, whatever you want to call them, in their company, so they could put out a team. Not to mention that they're owned or co-owned by TNA, so I don't think there'd be any problems in getting talents to come over and represent Rinka King. Speaking of teams, I would no longer do the Team Japan or Team Mexico. Instead of representing countries, I think that going to a representing companies format would work much better. So having a team Ring of King, as you've already got, a team TNA, which you've got to have, seeing the fact it's promoted by TNA, a team AAA, which would represent Mexico, but they'd be called Team AAA because of the working relationship between TNA and AAA. I think that they would also participate in the World X Cup. And a team New Japan, maybe. The reason I say maybe is because from some of the things we've seen, one that stands out most to me, I think tomorrow is tomorrow as I'm recording this, is the January 4th Tokyo Dome show. And for the last 4 or 5 years, at least 1 or 2 TNA talents have gone out and represented TNA on New Japan's biggest show of the year. This year, nobody from TNA is going out there. I've heard JB might be going out there to do ring announcing again. But from what I understand, no wrestlers are going out there for TNA. Instead, they'll be taking... New Japan have bringing in 2 Ring of Honor wrestlers. Davey Richards, who was the world champion, and is also New Japan's junior tag team champion, or one half. And they're bringing in Shelton Benjamin from Ring of Honor as well. So I'm not sure if you could get a team New Japan. If you couldn't, then I think you should still have a Japanese team in the World X Cup, seeing the fact Japan is one of the biggest wrestling countries in the world, and there's several different companies you could use, possibly All Japan, Pro Wrestling Noah even. I'm not sure how that would work though, because I've heard Ring of Honor and Pro Wrestling Noah have come to a working agreement. If that's the case, then I don't think you'd be able to use any Pro Wrestling Noah talents. Or you could use, what would probably the cheapest option for TNA would be to use Dragon Gate talents. Because of Dragon Gate USA, they could just use 4 junior heavyweights from Dragon Gate USA, so they wouldn't have to fly them over, because I would assume the 4 would be based in, I say 4, we'll talk about the number of wrestlers in teams in a minute. The wrestlers that would be in the team would probably be based in the United States already, to go around doing shows and touring with Dragon Gate USA. So I definitely have a team representing a company, tongue twisted there, a team representing a company from Japan, and then I would have a team TNA, team Ring of King, and team AAA, as I mentioned before. The members of the team, instead of 4, I would have 6. That might be, it would cost more, but I think by having 6, you can add quite a lot of depth to some of the matches you can do, and also to the final matches to finish off the World X Cup. As I mentioned before, I would not have it go from the World X Cup go from the night after Slammiversary in June to the July pay-per-view, which would be Destination X. I would have it go to from the night after Destination X to the August pay-per-view, which at the moment is Hardcore Justice. The reason for that would be because TNA making the X Division for an entire month so important, like they did this past year, building up Destination X, instead of coming off that massive high from the Destination X pay-per-view and just the X Division dropping back into the lower card or mid card of Impact Wrestling and the lower card of TNA pay-per-view, you would keep them at a steady high and use that momentum you built from Destination X to carry through to the World X Cup, to probably interest more fans into watching the World X Cup, which could then result in more people tuning into X Division segments, watching X Division matches, and then giving TNA a reason, like they did this past week with the knockouts, giving TNA a possible reason to put the X Division on in the main event of an episode of Impact Wrestling. As long as you can support it by having a strong viewership week in, week out for the X Division matches, or X Division promo segments. I'd have the formula of having it run over 4 weeks and having 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 World X Cup matches on an episode of Impact Wrestling every week up until Hardcore Justice in August, where I'd have the finals of the pay-per-view. Just a quick mention about the Team Rinka King. One of the main reasons I would have a Team Rinka King is not only is it your company, and I don't think it would cost them. It wouldn't cost them any negotiations or any time to negotiate to get guys to come over and represent, because they're under TNA contract. I think, I'm not sure about the logistics, but I'm sure they're under TNA contract. I think it wouldn't really be any worse into the budget. It won't be cutting into the budget anymore, because you've already got like assigned amounts to pay those wrestlers for anyway when they're competing in Rinka King. The main reason though is because you can sign X Division wrestlers and you can put them into Rinka King. So for example, you could re-sign Amazing Red under a TNA contract, but you wouldn't necessarily have to use him on Impact Wrestling. You could instead use him as a Rinka King talent and put him out in to go over with the team that goes over to India and compete in the 4 or 5 nights that they do tapings, and him become a Rinka King superstar. Another thing, you could possibly even re-sign P.T. Williams, former X Division champion. You wouldn't have to bring him in to Impact Wrestling. You could just sign him under a TNA contract and put him in Rinka King, and then you could have him be the team captain maybe of Rinka King, and then you would say, for example, if you re-sign P.D. Williams, you would probably have to put him into Impact Wrestling. There'd be a competition. There'd be no chance that in the World X Cup you'd see P.D. Williams and Austin Aries face off. There'd be a chance you'd see like maybe P.D. Williams and Triple A's Jack Evans face off, or P.D. Williams and New Japan's Prince Devitt face off. But there'd be no chance for 2 of the best X Division wrestlers I've personally ever seen in Austin Aries and P.D. Williams facing off in the biggest X Division tournament there is. And I think maybe you could re-sign P.D. Williams, keep him under TNA contract. If you ever wanted to bring him from Rinka King for him to do a feud with an X Division wrestler for the X Division title, you could. But it could still be being used in Rinka King, become the team captain of that team, and then end up facing off against, an Austin Aries and a Jack Evans and a Prince Devitt in the final match of the World X Cup. So the final matches that I would have on Hardcore Justice would be a 4 corners elimination tag team match, which would use 2 of the 6 members of each team, being the first of the final 4 matches in the World X Cup. The second match I would have to coincide with the Hardcore Justice theme, but regardless of what pay-per-view it takes place at, I would have an 8-man escape match involving 2 members of each team competing and representing their team in the match, and whoever winning getting so many points. The point system I would leave till the final stage of booking of who I would want to, who's going to ultimately win the World X Cup, and then you can work out the point system for each individual match. So then it adds up, and then it comes across as fair, and no one looks undermined. Someone getting finishing and winning with 20 points, and another team getting about 5. It's just the logistics of keeping all the companies happy and making the winner make sense and the point system making sense. So I'd have 4 corners elimination tag team match, 8-man escape match. I would then have a 4-man ladder match. Once again, if you wanted to coincide with the Hardcore Justice theme. If they did a ladder match at Destination X, I don't think it would really matter. I don't think it would matter for the final match. Actually, I'll tell you the final match now, and then I'll explain. The final match I would have is a 4-man captains Ultimate X match. The only reason I say captains is because when I thought of this through, my captains were going to be Austin Aries for TNA, Jack Evans for AAA, Prince Devitt for New Japan, and Petey Williams for Ring King. And I thought, well, they're the best 4 wrestlers, so you may as well say there's going to be a captains match to finish off. So, like, all the pressure in the final match is on the captains, so they have responsibility, and also because they're 4 of the best X Division wrestlers in the world. Regardless, I think at Destination X they'd have an Ultimate X match. I'm not sure if they'd have a ladder match or not. They didn't this past year. They could next year. The Motor City Machine Guns might come back, and they might end up doing a match between the Motor City Machine Guns and the Hardys in a TLC match. I know Matt Hardy said he'd retired because of injury, but he never said that he'd not do one match, and I think that they could get Matt Hardy to come back. If he's clean, by the way. If he's clean and sober and is actually, okay now, like Jeff seems to be. I'm sure Jeff is, and I hope he is, because if not, it just makes the entire wrestling industry look bad. So they might, but I think they might do a TLC match, or Full Metal Mayhem as it's known in TNA. But I don't think it'd affect it really, because you'd be going with, at least 3 of the participants in Ultimate X, and probably all of the participants in the ladder match will be completely different from the previous month. I know it might be a couple of people might come out and say, it's overkilling the gimmick. Well, if you have an Ultimate X match in July, an Ultimate X match in August, and then you don't have an Ultimate X match for nearly a year, it doesn't really kill the gimmick. You know what I mean? It doesn't really destroy the gimmick, because it's still there, but if you don't use it for a long time, then it's not like using it every month or every other month. So that's how I'd have the final matches go off, having those 4 types of matches. They could add excitement to the World X Cup as well. I really wanted to do this video because I really want to see the World X Cup come back in 2012. For some reason, I absolutely love seeing different styles and things. I was talking to someone last week or the week before about how I really enjoyed Global Impact, which they usually recorded, which was usually the TNA wrestlers that went to the January 4th Tokyo Dome show. Their matches, and then footage of them in Japan, like building up the matches and everything, which of course will not happen this year because nobody is going. So that's a shame, and I always enjoyed both Global Impact and the World X Cup. Hopefully it will come back this year, and hopefully it will be a moneymaker. If not, that'd be unfortunate. But yeah, that's all from me for now. I think I'll be doing a video in a couple of days, a new video. Not sure what it will be. I will confirm it on Twitter, which you should follow me on. It's at Mr. TNA. Like the video if you like the idea. Comment below in whatever comment section you're seeing this on, whether it be on YouTube or somewhere else. Share your thoughts and opinions. Feel free to give feedback. Subscribe to the YouTube channel so you can always see the videos. And you shall hear from me in a couple of days. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for listening if you did to the last video. Really appreciate that. And see you soon.